Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I am a budget conscious girl who loves spending their money on fashion. And over the years, I've spent a lot of money on clothes, accessories, skincare, and some of those purchases have been worth all my money, while others I've regretted. And from that experience, I've now defined exactly what I'm willing to spend money on versus not, so that when I am tempted by a sale or a pretty item, I know when to step back or to splurge. And some of these you might not agree with, so I'm curious to see what you think. Let's get started. I have a list here, and the number one thing that came to mind when I was making this list were dresses. Dresses are, I think, like a woman's kryptonite. You see a beautiful dress from Self Portrait or any like designer brands, and it's so easy to fall in love with them because it's so clear that they're made of higher quality and that it's very unique that you can't find elsewhere. And it's so easy to fantasize and even idealize yourself wearing this dress for an occasion. But the reality of dresses is that, well, first of all, two things. One, even if they're like day to day, like summer dresses, because it's a one piece and there's a limit to mixing and matching and how you style those dresses, what I find is that I get sick of them incredibly fast. So once I wear like a summer dress for a couple of seasons, I find myself craving for more. And I've observed that over the years that even though the dress is in perfectly good condition, it's still in style, I'm just sick of wearing them. So I find myself wanting to replace it with something else. And then when it comes to occasion dresses, I'm comfortable repeating outfits, but there's also a limit to how many times I can repeat that outfit. So dresses that I buy for a wedding, I might wear 3, 4 times. But then after that, I feel like the dresses either get outdated or I just find myself craving for something new. And I think it's perfectly fine to feel that way and to indulge. We buy things and we wear things to feel good and have fun. And I don't make myself feel bad for wanting to buy something new to treat myself. What I've just noticed is that I've collected so many dresses over the years that I end up donating or giving away because I get sick of them. So now what I do is I rarely buy expensive dresses. A lot of my like day-to-day summer dresses are from H&M, Zara, just because they have really fashion forward dresses that are decent quality and I can wear for multiple seasons and I don't feel so bad getting rid of them. And same with occasion wear as well. You don't have to go to hundreds of dollars to find something special, especially like as a attendee of a wedding. Like to me, it's important to, dress up and meet the dress code and to fit the part and to, celebrate by showing up and your best self. But it's also not my day. It's not my runway to walk down on. So I don't see that as like this opportunity to wear the most unique thing or wear the most exciting purchase. To me, it's about feeling good, looking good, and meeting the dress code and what the couple has envisioned for them, but ultimately taking a step backwards so that I just blend in with the crowd, which means that I am not looking for that one of a kind piece, but I'm looking for something that fits well with my body and that's affordable. So I often shop sales. One of the things I love to do is shop for occasion wear off season. So even if I don't have any events coming up, if I see something on sale, like let's say in the wintertime that I love, I'll buy that, knowing that I have a backup dress when I need it and I'm not shopping in a rush. The second thing I don't spend my money on are basics. I feel like I've watched so many like comparing basics YouTube videos, comparing like jeans, comparing white t-shirts, comparing tank tops. And the consensus is you don't need to spend like hundreds of dollars on those things, but maybe that $95, $100 t-shirt is actually really good quality. And sure, if you have the budget for that, go ahead. But that's not how I like to spend money, especially on white t-shirts and tank tops, because you wash them, you dry them, they get stained, and I often have to replace them. every 2 to 3 years. Knowing how fragile these items are, it doesn't make sense to me to spend that extra money when you can find amazing quality t-shirts at Uniqlo, for example, one of my favorite shops. Now, if you have a uniform of wearing white tees several times a week, then I perfectly understand. But I get the sense that most of us have a lot of options in our closet and that we alternate. So it doesn't make sense for me to invest in basics that I have to replace very often, knowing that there are more affordable versions that are just as good quality, maybe slightly less, like if you're really picky, but I think honestly, you can find something in your budget. Sneakers, and especially trendy collab sneakers. I think like sneakers are possibly the trendiest item. I think sneakers go viral and they also die really quickly. And especially the viral sneakers tend to have collaborations with other designers that look honestly infinitely better, but they're often double, triple the price, like $200, $300 versus like $100 to $200 sneakers. And they're cool, don't get me wrong. And if that's what you want to spend your money on, great. But what I find is that I made purchases that are really trendy because you see them all the time. But by the next season or the season after that, I find myself just not reaching for them, not because I don't love them, but because we are just susceptible to loving what we see a lot. And that's how trends really start. You see a lot of the thing at the same time and you start realizing that, oh, I actually like that. So I find myself not reaching forward to sneakers that I once used to love. And I just got tired of playing this game of always having to buy new sneakers every season. So now what I do is I won't fall into like the trendiest of trend, but I at least consider like what's out there that I like and compare that with my personal style. For example, right now, slim sneakers are in. And that does look good with my general style of wearing baggier bottoms. And what I do is I usually buy 2 pairs of sneakers. For example, I have the Adidas Taekwondos in the cream and the black, and I spent less than $100 each on them. I still wear them, but who knows? Maybe by next summer, they won't be as relevant anymore. So I have those, and that's what I consider like my trendy shoes that I didn't spend a lot of money on. And then I have usually like some sort of like Converse-esque sneakers that I think is timeless. Like it might not be the most trendy, but it'll always have a place in your closet and it'll always fit with some outfit that you're wearing. And then I'll have like something athletic. Like for example, these New Balance shoes, they were so huge a couple of years ago, these chunky dad shoes, and nobody's wearing them anymore. I still love them and I usually wear them for like long walks, but I wouldn't necessarily style them to, when I want to look good. So I keep one of those pairs, but really that's it because I'm not interested in playing the sneaker game. And, you know, give it a couple of years. All those Sambas that you have, you're probably not going to want to sell them and no one's going to want to buy them. The next items that I don't spend money on are sunglasses. And this one's a little tricky because I think sunglasses are kind of like bags in that there is a sense of status, this sense of poise and confidence that you get when you wear designer sunglasses. They're heavily branded and people like that. I also like that. I have designer sunglasses. But what I've noticed is that when I have designer sunglasses, I'm a lot more precious with them. I'm so terrified of dropping them and losing them that I will only wear them for specific activities or events. But I will never reach for them as much as my like cheaper pairs that are like sub 100. Ray-Bans are great for that. Blue Elephants are great for that. And I've just learned over the years that I gravitate towards sunglasses that I'm less precious about, that are still stylish. And I think that's what it is. Like you can still get amazing quality, stylish sunglasses if you just don't care about the brand. Once like a big brand brings out a pair of sunglasses that go viral, a lot of brands will kind of create their own versions of it. So I would say like my interest in designer sunglasses have significantly decreased. Handbags. Now, I don't mean that I spend my money on handbags in that I only buy designer handbags. I do buy some designer handbags, but what I'm talking about is quality of the handbags. There are so many cute handbags that are made out of pleather. And I know that there are ethical benefits to that, but when it comes to quality and longevity, real leather is so good. And the way it wears throughout the years is just unmatched, at least in my experience. So it's not so much about the brand, but the quality. So I don't think you need to go into like designer brand budget in order to have good quality purses. Same with even straw bags. Whether that straw bag is made out of paper or raffia is going to have a huge difference in the longevity. Straw bags are not going to last you a lifetime just by the nature of the material, but paper straw bags are actually not as nearly as durable. And if you get them wet, the shape of them is going to get affected, unlike raffia, which is a lot more durable of a material. So these like nuanced little details is what I look for when I'm looking for handbags. Another thing to note is that if your handbag has a lot of hardware, you do have to think about the quality of them because hardware, I think, is one of the first things that show the signs of wear and tear. So making sure that the components feel sturdy and well made, I think is really important when it comes to purchasing handbags. Similarly, I spend money on shoes and specifically leather shoes. I don't love fake leather shoes because they're not breathable, they don't mold to your feet, and they just trap heat and moisture inside. It's almost like wearing rubber boots. And this also matters even with shoes that are marketed as leather shoes. You need to go into the material to really make sure that even the lining is leather, because a lot of brands that are more affordable and trendy will have leather in the exterior, but not in the interior. And it's really the interior that makes the shoes more comfortable and breathable. And I do think that if you do your research, you can get really nice, affordable, comfortable leather shoes without sacrificing price. It's just that, they won't be as accessible and easy to find and cheap as like Zara shoes, for example. So it's not necessarily about spending a lot of money on shoes, but just making sure that you do the research and know that if you're going to spend a little bit more than what you want, it's actually worth it. Coats and jackets. It goes without saying, I think this is one of the more common things that people do spend a lot of money on. And that's just because the quality of a good coat or a jacket really shows, especially on like wool slash like pea coats. When you see like a fast fashion coat that are made out of like polyester or acrylic and with like cheaper buttons and poor stitching, it's very obvious when somebody's wearing that versus a wool cashmere blend, structured, tailored coat. This is why I love shopping vintage for coats because that is one way you can hack the price aspect of it. I think vintage coats in general are better constructed than now. If you were to buy something equivalent to nowadays, you would have to spend a lot more money. So if you want to be budget conscious, go vintage, dry clean them, and get your money's worth. Jewelry is another category of items that I will spend my money on. I did a video on my entire jewelry collection if you want to check that out. There are a lot of brands out there that are doing vermeil or plated jewelry really well. And if you're silver girly, I mean, obviously silver is a lot more affordable, so that's great. But I like to wear gold. And I do buy those items when they're like costume pieces. So they're like really big or chunky or something that I know I'm not going to wear every day. But when it comes to your everyday jewelry, this is the thing that's closest to your skin. It's the thing that you're going to sleep with, shower with, maybe even go swimming with. And I think it's important to invest money on something that's not going to tarnish or look tired so soon. And what I love about jewelry is that there's such an easy way to indicate the quality. Like There's literal ratings like 10K, 14K, 18K that tells you exactly the material and the quality of that material that they're using. So you're really thinking about the weight of that item and the design of that item. There's something just so straightforward about it, unlike clothing or bags, where you're not just thinking about the material, but you're thinking about the brand name that makes the price hike up, that makes purchasing a little bit more complicated. Whereas jewelry to me is just like so straightforward, unless, of course, you're trying to buy like designer jewelry, which I won't get into it, but they're all costume jewelry at the end of the day. So I spend my money on jewelry. I try to buy 14K, but if I'm shopping vintage, then I will do 10K because ultimately they're more durable than 14K. And I will only purchase vermeil products, not plated, because I want my jewelry to last. Last but not least, I spend my money on like hats, gloves, scarves, these like accessories. And one could argue that that's like the thing that you shouldn't spend money on because they're accessories. You can have a lot of them and they're smaller items, so why not have fun with it? But I think it's also another one of those category of items that show quality really easily. A synthetic scarf really shows and you feel it too versus a cashmere scarf. And when you wash them, you're definitely going to see that. Same with hats. The construction of hats really matter. And I'm not talking about like, hundreds of dollar like fedora hats. I'm even just talking about baseball hats. And you can really see the difference between like a cheaply made baseball hat versus a really good quality baseball hat. And that's only going to be a difference of like $20. And I'll say this again, it's not necessarily about the exact amount that you're spending, but about the level of quality. Gloves, for example, because they're in our hands and because we touch a lot of things with them, they show wear and tear really easily. And if you buy synthetic gloves, they're not going to keep your hands warm as well as wool gloves, shearling gloves, leather lined gloves. So for the look, but also the function of it, I will spend my money on accessories. All right, if you made it this far, I'm curious to know whether you agree with some of my thoughts or not. To me, these are the rules that help me shop smarter and not make any impulse purchases or purchases that I regret. So I hope you found them valuable. I'll see you next time.